Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my new website at www.stampwithelaine.com. Today's sneak peek is a card which has a hidden gatefold. It's part of the World of Good suite on pages 24 to 26 in the new annual catalogue. It has a set of coordinating dies called the World Map dies. There are 10 dies in the set. There are two halves of the world. One shows North America and South America, and this one is the continents including Australia. There's a globe stand, two globe stands in fact, an inkwell, one for the feather, a circle, and this one embosses. I haven't used that one yet, but I will be revisiting it at some stage. The one we're going to be using is this one, the inkwell and the feather and the embossing die. I'm going to show you how to cut the card base. Basically you use almost a whole A4 sheet. In Europe our A4 sheets are slightly longer, so what you need to do is on the long side measure it at 11.5 inches and cut off that little bit at the bottom. Then on the short side align it at 8 inches and cut it off at 8 inches. Then you want to score it at 5 5/8 inches and 5 3/4 inches. And the reason for scoring that extra 1/8 of an inch, it's so that when you've done the gatefold down here it will shut properly. So next you want to cut off these two rectangles on either side. Now if I score it, it won't cut crisp. I'm just going to align it at the 2-inch mark and cut down to the second score line, and it's easy to see because on the Stampin' Up trimmer there are indentations on the side of the cutting blade. So you cut up, then slide it over to the 6-inch mark and do the same again. Then move the cutting blade away, and now you score the rest of the way. I should have done that for the other one as well, so put it back at the 2-inch mark and score it. Then take a pair of scissors and cut away that rectangle. Burnish the score line. And if you've got any excess, then you can trim that off. So let's trim that off, open it up again, put that down so you know where to cut. And it's just a tad. For the designer series paper, I used the World of Good DSP. These have got brass foil accents on them, really pretty. That's on one side and that's on the other side. Two patterns we're using are this one and this one. So let's run through it bit by bit. For the front, this flap here, the crumb cake layer, 3 3/4 inches by 5 3/8 inches. That's 9.5 by 13.7 centimeters. Then the World of DSP to go on top, that's 3.5 by 5 1/8. That's 8.9 centimeters by 13 centimeters. So that I don't get the layers confused, I'm just going to glue them on to my card base now. For the outside panels and the inner panels, you need 4 pieces of crumb cake, and these have been cut at 1 3/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and in metric that's 4.4 centimeters by 13.3. Let's glue these on. That's the outside panels. And then these two panels, we need to stamp on them, and they're for the inside. So I'll set that aside. And with this pattern paper, you want 2 pieces cut at 1 1/2 by 5 inches. In metric, that's 3.8 by 12.7. These go on the outside panels on top of the crumb cake. Now we want a piece of crumb cake for the centre panel of the inside of the card, and that's 3 3/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. In metric, that's 9.5 by 13.3. Glue that as well. The very vanilla layer that goes on top of that, and this has been cut at 3 1/2 by 5. In metric, that's 8.9 by 12.7, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this down as well. I'm not stamping off the page. Very vanilla scrap to stamp the inkwell and feather for die cutting. New brass foil for cutting the globe stand. Some crumb cake cardstock to emboss this map coordinate image here. Early espresso and crumb cake ink pad, sponge dauber, the Forever Greenery trim combo pack because I wanted this twisted gold thread. First I'll stamp the feather and inkwell in crumb cake. Having stamped my images, I'm now going to run that through the Big Shot. I've got my magnetic platform base cutting plate, the brass gold foil with the map and the globe and the feather and the inkwell. Top cutting plate, and I'll run that through the Big Shot off camera. I'm also going to use this die to emboss this bit here, which doesn't actually cut at all, it just simply embosses. So I'm going to use the basic platform, a standard cutting plate, my die, face up, grey silicone mat, and then the white impressions embossing plate, and I'll run that through the Big Shot off camera. So there are my die cut pieces and my embossed piece. This is when you need to use the sponge dauber and sponge over the embossed writing because it's barely visible and it's really hard to see, but it will come up if you rub a sponge dauber over it. So I'm just going to randomly do that. You see how it pops. And then I'm going to cut around there, just run the scissors along the edges here, just to age it a bit. Crumple it up and unravel it. Now I'm going to put this on. I actually took the precaution of mounting my brass foil paper with adhesive sheets at the back, so I wouldn't have the aggravation of putting tiny lines of glue on. Now don't adhere that right down to the front of the card yet, because you've got to insert your globe in. Make sure it's the right way up, sit that in, and then glue everything down. Then I use glue dots to pop that down in the middle. So if I want to, I can insert something behind it. Make sure it's the right way up. It's hard to see. There's the numbers and the map coordinates, so it should go this way, I think. Dimensional behind the inkwell, and also one behind the feather. Stamp Adventure Awaits. And I'll fussy cut that word out off camera so it won't take up so much video time. Glue the letter. I've put dimensionals on the back of the inkwell. Place that along there. Cut a strip of this gold twine. I'm going to make a loop and twist it so that it will stay, and stick it on with a glue dot. Stick it up there. I've removed the backing tape from the feather, and I'm going to stuck the quill end underneath the inkwell to keep it down, and then fray this a little bit and trim it off. Now we'll do the inside of the card. I'm going to stamp the inkwell here, the quill, and this little swirly bit along here, and just ground it a little bit. The last thing to do is stamp the two side panels. So I'm using these three stamps, the compass, the feather and the ink spot. So I shall more than likely speed this up. So to complete the card, we need to glue these pieces in. So I hope you've enjoyed today's sneak peek. I will be revisiting this suite to show you the rest of the items in it. There are no links at the moment because the catalogue hasn't launched yet, but do pop back for more inspiration when it does. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you soon. Bye!